Magnus Carlsen, the unrivaled king of chess, has reigned supreme over the chessboard for years, mesmerizing the world with his extraordinary skills. However, hidden within his illustrious career are a few astonishing moments where his opponents shattered the boundaries of time, demolishing Magnus in lightning-fast victories. Today, we unveil the top 5 fastest losses that left the chess world in awe and reminded us that even the greatest can fall in a blink of an eye. Number 5. Magnus vs. Alexander Morozevich. Let's kick off with a breathtaking match between Magnus Carlsen and Alexander Morozevich, a formidable opponent who at the time of this game was ranked second in the world and at the peak of his career. In a nail-biting battle, Magnus opens with c4 pawn and Alexander responds by moving his pawn to e6. After a few moves, the game turns into an English opening. Magnus's pawn on c4 is captured by his opponent. He responds by moving his bishop to g2 to protect his king. Morozevich, who now has the advantage of one extra pawn, moves his pawn to b5 to protect his weak pawn on c4. However, Magnus manages to attack Morozevich's middle pawns by moving his pawn to f4. Morozevich moves his bishop on the diagonal, followed by a pawn trade. Magnus responds with a bishop move of his own, and Morozevich seems to have a slight advantage. Magnus launches an attack on Morozevich's king, trading his rook for a knight. Magnus reveals a triple attack on Morozevich's pawn, but Morozevich defends with his queen. Magnus plays knight g4, pairing an extremely dangerous attack. Morozevich moves his bishop. Magnus plays knight s6, and all pieces are traded. Morozevich forces another trade with bishop d5, pinning Magnus's bishop to his king. Morozevich hides his king in a corner while threatening the checkmate from taking the pawn on h4. Magnus resigns. Number 4. Magnus vs. Boris Savchenko. In this memorable encounter, Magnus Carlsen faced Boris Savchenko, a tenacious adversary known for his strategic prowess. But it's during this match that Magnus played his worst mistake in history. Magnus starts with an e4 pawn, Boris responds with a c5 pawn, and the game transitions into the Sicilia defense. Both players castle and Magnus plans an attack by playing bishop on square e3, aiming to push his pawn to f4. Boris counters by moving his queen to a5, connecting his rooks. Magnus moves his rook to the side, and Boris improves his rook's position. Magnus initiates an attack but makes a blunder by playing knight d5, giving away a pawn. Boris seizes the opportunity and captures the pawn. Magnus regains control, trades bishops, and offers a queen trade. Boris accepts, allowing Magnus to bring his bishop to b6. Magnus plays strategically, while Boris makes mistakes. Eventually, Magnus blunders, making an illegal move, and Boris points it out, ending the game. Number 3. Magnus vs. Judith Polgar. Moving on to another legendary clash on the chessboard, we have Magnus facing Judith Polgar, a formidable chess prodigy. This game was even more devastating. Judith opens the game with an e4 pawn. Magnus responds by moving his pawn to c4, opting for the Sicilian defense. After piece development, Judith castles queenside. Magnus places his bishop on b7, initiating a tactic where he takes Judith's pawn on g4. Judith responds by kicking away Magnus's knight. More moves are played until Magnus makes a terrible blunder by playing his rook on c8. Judith seizes the opportunity, playing her bishop on b6, threatening checkmate. Magnus takes the bishop but is already in a losing position. After losing his queen and attempting to regroup, Magnus resigns in only 19 moves. Number 2. Magnus vs. unlikely challenger in a bar in Norway. Another remarkable match where Magnus Carlsen got defeated quick-fast is this one here, where he faced an unlikely challenger who we shall refer to as A in a humble Norwegian bar. Magnus, who is playing with white pieces, starts the match with e4 pawn. A responds with an e5 pawn, and the game transitions into the Ruy Lopez opening. Magnus gains control of the center with moves like c3 knight and c2 bishop. A makes a mistake with the g6 knight move, allowing Magnus to seize the advantage. Magnus's pieces become more active, and A struggles to defend. A realizes the situation and surrenders a bishop to capture a pawn. Magnus makes a mistake by moving his knight to f5, allowing A to win a free pawn while attacking Magnus's queen. Magnus, with no other possible move to make, surrenders the match. Number 1. Magnus Carlsen versus Fabiano Caruana. And lastly, we have Magnus facing Fabiano Caruana. Magnus opens the match with e4 pawn, and Caruana responds with e6 pawn, opting for the French defense. As the game progressed, Magnus aimed for an aggressive approach by pushing his e and f pawns forward, seeking to create attacking opportunities. As the match develops, Caruana moves his pawn to square c5, challenging Magnus' pawn structure. In the middle of the game, Magnus moves his queen to square c1, which came as a slight inaccuracy, allowing Caruana to gain a small edge. However, Magnus counterattacked, leaving Caruana struggling to pick up his position. It didn't take long, and Carlsen's defensive attempts were met with resourceful counterplay, leaving him struggling to keep his position intact. Caruana mounted pressure more by moving his bishop to square a3. Despite Magnus' resilient efforts, Caruana's relentless pursuit of an advantage paid off. Magnus found himself in a difficult position, losing a knight on move 28 after a series of unfavorable exchanges, bringing the match to an end. So, there you have it, guys. As you've seen, Magnus Carlsen's journey to chess greatness is marked by triumphs and occasional stumbles. These 4 lightning-fast defeats stand as a testament to the unpredictability and intensity of the game. If you enjoyed watching this video, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel for more amazing content like this. Thanks for watching, and as usual, I'll see you in the next video.